What up, guys? Welcome back to The Educated Barfly. Today, I hope we've got something that is very fun, kind of informative. We are going to be battling it out with 3 different styles of super juice. For those of you that do not know, super juice is a recipe that was developed by a Louisville bartender named Nickle Morris, who used old school bartending technique and figured out a way to extend not only the life of lime juice, but also the quantity of lime juice using a technique called oleosacrum. So a couple years ago, the recipe made the rounds after Nickle had made some videos with some bartending organizations, and it kind of exploded on the internet. The first person to do a video on it is a bartender from here in LA named Zach Zoschke. You can find him on YouTube and Instagram. He's a very talented bartender. And then very soon after that, a bartender that I'm sure all of you guys know named Kevin Kos made his own version of super juice, and then another bartender, a New York City bartender named Brian Tasch, made his super juice. And I made a video as well. But when I made the video, I wanted to test the Nickle Morris recipe. So what I did was just make that straight recipe. Zach Zoschke also made that recipe, but Kevin Kos made his own version of it. He basically took the idea behind Nickle Morris's and made his very own style of super juice, and then Brian Tasch made his own style of super juice. And it got me wondering, what is the best super juice? Which one is gonna taste the best in cocktails? So today we're gonna make all 3 versions. We're gonna make the original, we're gonna make the Kevin Kos version, we're gonna make the Brian Tasch version, and then we're gonna pit them against each other in a daiquiri and see who reigns supreme. I'm definitely gonna blind taste it, and we are gonna crown a winner. So what you're gonna need is citric acid, malic acid, sugar, a few jars, a bunch of limes, and a nice sharp peeler. You wanna make sure that it's a very sharp peeler because we're gonna try and control as much pith from the lime. And it's very hard to not get a substantial amount of pith off of lime. So we're just gonna try and control that so we don't add any undue bitterness to the juice. Each of these recipes are based on 100 grams of lime peel, which is roughly 8 limes, I think. I'm gonna be using a scale here. So if you wanna do this with any type of accuracy, you're gonna also wanna do it on a scale. I'm just gonna use small mason jars to do the first part. There are 2 parts to making any type of super juice. The first part is doing an oleosacrum with the peels and the different acids. If you guys don't know what oleosacrum is, it is the process of punch making developed in the 18th or 19th century. And basically what it is coating peels with sugar to extract the oils and make like a very rich, very flavorful lime lemon kind of slurry. You can do it with any citrus. You can do it with orange, grapefruit. But for this one, instead of making oleosacrum, we're gonna be making an oleocitrate, which is a term that I think Nickle Morris coined. And what we're gonna be basically doing is, instead of using sugar, we're gonna be extracting those oils with the citric acid and the malic acid. We are once again partnered up with ZBiotics. ZBiotics is a pre-alcohol probiotic, and it is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in your gut, and it's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. ZBiotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. So just remember to drink this prebiotic before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, get a good night's sleep, and then you'll feel your best tomorrow. In my line of work, I am surrounded by a lot of alcohol, and although I definitely practice moderate drinking, I am also getting to that age where even moderate drinking can provide me with a morning that leaves much to be desired. So using ZBiotics has been a godsend. I just take one before I drink, then the next day I can get up and shoot a full day of content and feel 100% fine. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. And all you gotta do is go to zbiotics.com/educatedbarfly or scan the QR code on the screen right now to get 15% off your first order when you use Educated Barfly at checkout. You can also sign up for a subscription using my code so you can stay prepared no matter the time or occasion. Thanks to ZBiotics for partnering with us on this episode and your good times. Basically what you want to do is a very shallow cut. Like even that might be a little too much. I mean, you want to try and get as little as possible. I'm going to include this anyway though, because it wasn't that much. Now, here's the thing that everyone asked me about the Nickle Morris recipe. In the Nickle Morris recipe, he uses 44 grams of citric acid and 7 grams of malic acid. But it's also been widely reported on the internet that a lime has something like a 2-to-1 ratio of citrus to malic acid in the actual thing. So this doesn't actually fit the bill. I'm assuming that what Nickle Morris did here is just test and test and test and test and came up with this ratio because it was the best tasting ratio. But a lot of people ask me why there isn't a 2-to-1 ratio in this particular recipe. The fact of the matter is, there just isn't. I don't really know why. Nickle Morris is the guy that you're gonna have to ask, so you could DM him on Instagram and ask him why he decided. I'm assuming he just decided that this was the best ratio flavor-wise, and then compared it against fresh juice to try and get as close as possible, and this is what he came up with. So what we're gonna do here is 44 grams of citric acid and 7 grams of malic acid. And then we're just gonna add this to the jar like so. Give it a good mix. Cap it off. I like to give it a good shake to distribute. Kevin Ko's recipe, another 100 grams of lime peel. The other thing I find curious about the Kevin Ko's recipe is that I don't think that he measures the juice. Like he measures like 16.66, whatever the weight of the peels are, times 16.666 for the citric acid, and then 13.333 or whatever for the malic acid, and then it's like, and then just add the juice into the thing. It's like the juice from the limes you peeled. And I'm assuming you're adding in that volume of juice because you're trying to be sustainable, so you're trying to have no waste, which is kind of the purpose of this whole thing. Although I would argue that even if it wasn't like super sustainable. I mean, sustainability is kind of like a happy accident when it comes to this recipe. I think what the main thing about this is extending your lime juice shelf life like considerably, and that which is a big money saving, which is gonna, if you're running a bar, is gonna save you a ton of money and waste. Okay, so for this we're going to do just 0.66, sorry, not 16 times, that was it's 0.66 times the weight of the peels. So that would be 66 grams of citric acid. So this already is going to be more tart than the Nickle Morris version with a lot more citric acid by about 22 grams extra. And 33 grams of malic. Kevin Ko's. Okay, so 30 grams of peel. And then we're gonna do 30 grams of sugar. 24 grams of citric acid, 12 grams of malic. Okay, so we'll just set this aside. We'll let the acids work their magic on the making the oleocitrate, which is already starting to happen here, if you can see. Already starting to extract right there, see? See how goopy that is?
1 hour later.
We're back an hour later. We have our Nickle Morris oleocitrate recipe here. And as you can see, it has completely liquefied all of the acids that we put in here. Then we have the Kevin Ko's, which is a slurry, but it hasn't liquefied all of the acids here. They haven't completely dissolved in the oil that came out of the peels. And then we have the Tasch, which is even did a worse job. It's still a slurry. This is not going to contain the juice of the limes like these ones do. So what this one does is really create a fake juice, as opposed to this one's, which makes use of the juice. The problem with these ones is that they contain juice, which will oxidize over time. The question is, are you gonna be able to detect it? They all have a little bit different processes. So right now I'm just gonna juice all the limes that we need for the Nickle Morris one, and then we're gonna add some water to it. We're gonna blend it all up, strain it, and then we'll have our super juice. So now we have the Kevin Ko's recipe. So basing this on 100 grams of peels means that we need 1.6 liters of water, which we don't even have a big enough blender to do. So we're gonna have to do this in batches. I'm just gonna add a little water in here to liquefy the rest of the acids, and then throw it all into the blender. It's a cup and a half. It's exactly a cup and a half. So we're gonna add this in. And then I guess we're gonna have to add the water in batches. Bam! Okay, now onto the Tasch recipe. So for those of you guys that don't remember, the Tasch recipe is different because it utilizes sugar in the oleocitrate to mimic lime juice as opposed to putting any of the lime juice into it. The superpower of this thing, I would think, is that it doesn't oxidize. There is juice in here that will oxidize over time. This won't oxidize because there is no juice. So let's just do like 500 grams of water, which is what we're gonna need for this particular recipe. There we go. 500 grams of water. Of course, we're gonna put a little bit of the water in here, shake it up so that we're utilizing all of the acids and sugar. And the rest of the water. Add in 1 gram of sea salt and blend. Honestly, I thought this was gonna be paler, but it's much the same color, even without the lime juice. I have tied this so tight that I cannot see anything. I can't look down, I can't cheat in any way.
I guess not, yeah.
Did you already mess with the order? Do you remember which is which? You better, because if not, this is all for nothing.
Yeah. Yep.
You know which is which?
Yep.
So should I take left to right or right to left?
It doesn't matter.
I gotta like do this because I don't want to. I don't want to knock it over. Well, that's a weird tasting daiquiri. It almost features the rum. The citrus is super light in this one. It's like almost non-detectable. It's very rum forward. This one tastes like a daiquiri. Super full flavored. I'll tell you right now, it's between these two. This one,
Yeah.
the lime doesn't even register.
Oh, interesting.
So it's between these two. I'm gonna just taste this one. Hold on, where is it?
A little further.
Okay, there we go. Just to make sure. Yeah. Too rum forward. It's just not daiquiri flavor. It's not terrible tasting, but it's just not daiquiri flavor. It's just not what a daiquiri should taste like.
You want to try and guess which one that is?
Now? I mean, just from color alone, I'm going to say it's the Kevin Coase one. Just from that like light color as opposed to the other ones that were like kind of deeper
Not that
green.
you can see the color now, right? Yeah.
No, I can't see anything right now, but just like if I remember correctly from the daiquiris that I made before I put the blindfold on, the Kevin Coase one was super light.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is the Kevin Coase one.
Okay.
Which I gotta say, it's not a great super juice because it's just not like lime juice flavored enough, I think. This one is so lime forward. It makes such a good daiquiri. I mean, it's just so, it's like you get all of the lime. It's a nicely balanced, you know? And then you get the rum, but it's like you get, the lime is the star of the show, which I feel like that is what a daiquiri is all about. Daiquiri should taste like a lime candy, you know, like lime first. The rum on the back palate with a balanced amount of sugar in there. Is this the other one?
Yeah,
I can't even tell. Okay, I think
that's
I got
the,
it.
yeah, that's the.
This one's also really good, but this one's a lot more flavorful. I'm gonna rank them like this: 1, 2,
A little further,
3.
3. Yeah.
I can't tell which is which between these two. That is definitely the Kevin Coase one, though.
Yeah.
So the Kevin Coase one loses.
And the winner is
The winner is
Brian Tasch.
Brian Tasch. Brian Tasch has the better, and he didn't utilize any actual lime juice in this at all. And that's the better super juice. So now we know who does the best super juice. The second question is, does super juice hold up to a fresh lime?
I'm going to switch it again.
Switch it as many times as you want. It's pretty fantastic. They're almost indistinguishable from one another, honestly. Okay. I like this one better.
Yeah.
And I think that this one is the Brian Tasch one. And this one is a fresh juice. Am I right?
No.
No?
No.
This one's fresh juice?
It's the fresh juice, yeah.
But I gotta say, even though the fresh juice won,
Yeah.
like it won by a hair.
Right.
Because they're so similar tasting, it's so hard to tell. This one has a zing and like depth of flavor that is so nearly fresh juice, it's kind of crazy. Whereas this one, it has just like a little je ne sais quoi that is missing from the other one, but they're so similar that the casual drinker won't notice at all. They're almost indistinguishable.
Right. But you did prefer the fresh.
I did prefer the fresh by like a hair.
Right.
Yeah. The fresh was better by like a hair. That being said, if you institute like the Super Juice program into your bar, I don't think anybody would be able to tell the difference. I feel like I'm just splitting hairs. The Brian Tasch like Super Juice, as far as Super Juice goes, is a clear winner. That being said, fresh lime juice still reigns supreme.